Yeah, 1 second.
See how uncomfortable that was? Hey everyone, welcome back to Faith, Family, Fitness, and Finance. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about being present in the moment, getting our head out of our boop. So we've all been there, right? We've been at a family gathering, we've been with a group of friends, and even though we're all there together, we all have our head in our phone, we're all watching something on YouTube or checking Instagram, scrolling through funny videos. I really think that saying is true, that attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. It is how we show that we care about the people around us. And it's so easy to be disconnected in our culture that we live in today. And so we're going to talk about 5 different little points, little things that I'm trying to practice and implement into my life. And hopefully that'll start the conversation and start you thinking in that direction as well. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to say thank you to my friend Sarah, who's loaned me the Everyday Millionaires book by Chris Hogan. I'm going to read it and review it on Roll's Notes, so look forward to that video coming up in the near future. It's a great book. So I think we can agree that we're all surrounded with distractions. All day, every day, we can have instant access to distractions with our mobile devices, distractions with just entertainment that's all around us every moment of the day if we want to access it. So my first point today is, in a world filled with distraction, we need to try to be present. That means pulling our head out of our phone, ignoring those distractions, setting boundaries on those things. Maybe it could be that you turn off your phone after you get home from work, or you don't have your phone for the first hour or the last hour of the day. Whatever that looks like for you, but feeling out the boundaries to put on those distractions so that you can focus on those relationships that really are a priority and are the most important things in your life. And another thing that goes into being present is only saying yes to what is best. So there's lots of opportunities that can be presented to you, and we need to learn to filter those things and only say yes to what is best for us. Example in my life right now, my boss at my weekend job offered me full-time in that position, and I mean, it's not a long-term aspiration of mine to work full-time in commercial maintenance and all that stuff. So I thought about it, talked about it with my wife, and said no, because yes, it's an opportunity for me to make more money in the short term, but it's not taking me closer to my long-term goal. I mean, my long-term goals are to be financially independent, to be able to help and train and equip people and share my knowledge and passion for finances with people in a way that benefits the client as well as myself and my family. So I want to make decisions that take me closer to that goal, not decisions that loop me into long-term commitments for something that just pays the bills. So learn to filter opportunities, and I mean, that's something that I'm growing in. I'm naturally a yes person. I just constantly say yes to opportunities and then later have to, I don't know, sometimes it's not the best for me down the line, and it can be really difficult when you say yes to too many things because you're not bringing your best to the table when you overcommit yourself. And another thing with being present is eliminating garbage, just those things that we consume that aren't benefiting our lives. They aren't teaching us anything new. They aren't helping us or encouraging us. We're not learning anything from them, but it's just like sugar for own entertainment that isn't benefiting us. It's not a great thing for us to consume, but in the short term, it's like, oh yeah, this is great. I just want more of this. But when we consume garbage, it affects our lives. So if we consume mindless entertainment, if we consume way too much sugar, junk, highly refined foods, if we're consuming things that are bad for our spiritual man, all those things have an impact on us long term. So learning to be critical about the things that we consume can really have a benefit on us and help us to be more present for the most important things in our lives, as well as being open and communicating with those that are around you. So I've gotten into trouble many times in my professional life, in my relationships, all of those things, when I overcommit myself or make a decision in the spur of the moment and then eventually let those know around me that are going to be impacted by that decision. I've learned that I need to be more proactive in how I communicate things. So if that's a quick conversation or a text message or whatever that looks like, but communicating and being open and honest with those around us is so important, because another thing that feeds disconnection is when we're not in sync with those people that are important to us, and we're thinking, oh yeah, I overcommitted in this area, or I have this thing to tell them, instead of immediately sharing those things and having that conversation and involving them in the decision process if they're going to be impacted by that decision. I think it's so important for us to be a team player when it comes to our lives or our relationships, and allowing them to be part of that conversation helps us to be present and to be connected with those that are important to us. Point number 2 is, in a world of negativity, be positive. It's so easy to be caught up in the negativity that is around us. We live in a culture and a society that's constantly pointing out the negatives, the downfalls, the things that are bad around us. But it's so much more empowering when we focus on the positive, when we realize that there's an optimistic undertone that can be part of our lives, and that really empowers us and equips us to be more effective. Because if you're just constantly seeing the obstacles, seeing the difficulties, then you're never going to take advantage of the opportunities. There's so many great quotes that go into that, but I'm not gonna just be quoting quotes all day, even though I could. So I think part of building positivity into our lives is by building positive habits. So again, it comes down to being intentional with what we consume, with what we listen to. I think it's so important that if you're a Christian, you start the day by reading your Bible, or even if you're not, finding something positive that will build up your mind before you start the day. I remember when this whole COVID thing first started shaking down, and I would wake up every morning stressed out, pulling up stats on my phone and looking at videos of the latest updates, and it was just such a stressful, it's like it dumped a bunch of cortisol into my system right as soon as I started the day. And as I started to notice that that was a negative pattern, I was like, you know what, I don't care anymore about the latest stats, the latest death numbers, or the latest infection numbers. Those things don't directly impact my life. Of course, we want to be informed, but there comes a point when being inundated by stressful information that doesn't directly affect us just has such a negative impact. Zig Ziglar, the great, amazing motivator, he talked about when he first woke up in the morning, he liked to read his Bible and read the morning paper. He said, so that I would know what both sides are up to, the good and the bad. I don't like consuming the news first thing because it's constantly focused on the negative. That's probably because they understand that the human condition, we would rather avoid pain and punishment than seek out pleasure. We would rather run away from the stick than try to get the carrot. So that's why they understand that we pay more attention to news that is negative than what is positive. Being intentional about what we consume affects us long term. You can't become jacked by eating pizza, by eating Doritos and drinking pop all day every day and sitting and playing Xbox. As much as that would be a fun way to get jacked if it worked, it does not work. So we need to be mindful about what we consume, what we put into our minds and put into our bodies. A second thing about building that positivity in our lives, I think, is making it a habit to pray every day and have that attitude of prayer throughout your day. I know not everyone watching this is a Christian. You can interchange meditation or something if that's what you're into, but I mean, as a Christian, it really sets me up for success in the day when I start my day off with prayer, because it puts things into perspective. It makes me more grateful and thankful as I go through my day, instead of being entitled or feeling like I'm owed something, or just having a negative mindset about things, focusing on small irritations like being stuck behind a slow driver in traffic. Those things don't matter as much once we have an eternal perspective that we get through spending time in prayer. The third thing for being intentional and building that positivity, I think, is journaling. I find I'm trying to build this habit into my life, and it's not consistent at all yet. But it makes me organize my thoughts. It helps me to think more clearly when I organize my thoughts in a journal. Now, I'm not doing it every day yet. I've been trying to at least write something in there every day, but sometimes it's, oh, here's the budget for this paycheck. Sometimes it's just, oh, here's notes from a message on Sunday or Wednesday at church. And sometimes it's my thoughts, it's me trying to process or work through things. Sometimes it's little poems that I'm working on, or thoughts for my next video. All of those things, I think, even though it's not a perfect journal, it's a way that I'm organizing my thoughts, and it's still something that I could look back on 10 years from now or show my grandkids and be like, look, like a long time ago, this is where I was at. So I think it's a great habit to build, to journal, or at least keep a running record of your thoughts, and help digest or break down what you're reading as well. I love reading audiobooks. I love listening to audiobooks, but I've found this pattern where I'm not fully digesting the content. As much as I'm into it and I'm listening to everything, it's not the same as going through, underlining things or highlighting things as I go, writing notes in the margins, or writing notes in a notepad off to the side. That's how I truly start to digest and break down ideas, concepts, suggestions that are in these books, so that I can apply them to my life and increase my capacity as a communicator, as a leader, as a husband and leader in my community. All of those things are important, and we need to build our capacity to be better in those areas. And we do those things by being intentional and recording our steps as we go. The fourth thing for building up positivity is work out. Endorphins are magic. Seriously, it's so hard sometimes to wake up and to be like, okay, I need to get my workout in, I have to go lift some weights or go for a run. Those things are not fun when you're starting out. But as soon as you start that activity, whatever it is, you're working out, you're just doing some push-ups because you don't have much time, or you're going out for a run with a friend, or lifting some weights in your basement, or whatever that looks like. As soon as you start that, that's when your blood pressure rises, that's when your heartbeat starts going fast, and you start sweating a little bit, and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did this, because those endorphins start flowing, you start thinking more clearly. I think it's such an important routine to build into your life. If you're trying to be more positive, you need to spend time working out. And I mean, that's not the be all end all. If all you did was work out and you didn't build other positive habits or routines, it wouldn't be good. But it's a good starting place. And number 5 is listening to those audiobooks or great podcasts. There's so many great podcasts that I listen to when I'm on the job site, because it's just a good way to consume information, to put good things into your mind, and to be thinking about those things as you're working. You're doing something that may be mindless or repetitive, but you're still building up your mind when you consume those things. I'm going to put a few podcasts in the show notes section. Feel free to comment with one that you have thought of if I've forgotten any there. And just a last note on being positive. Your attitude determines your altitude. So John Maxwell, he has this famous illustration of being on an airplane, and there are all the gauges and all the things that are on the control panel at the front of the airplane. And one of them is what's called an attitude indicator. So it indicates if the plane is going up or going down, and it's called an attitude indicator. It indicates if it has a nose up attitude or a nose down attitude. So the attitude indicator of that plane determines if it's going up, if it's going higher, if it's going to soar into the heavens, or if it's coming down for a landing, maybe fast, maybe slow, but it is definitely going down. So your attitude, in the same way, determines your altitude. You are not going to consistently win in different areas of your life with a negative attitude. No, positivity doesn't solve everything, but it makes you have the right mentality when you're faced with difficulties, with obstacles, with all of those things, because you're not looking at it like, oh, I give up, I'm just gonna avoid this situation because it's too difficult. When you come in with a positive attitude, you're like, okay, fine, good, this is where we're at. How do I move on from here? How do I progress? How do I still reach my goals? I have this guy on my wall, Jocko. He says good whenever he faces a difficulty, a challenge, whenever he faces something that is thrown in his way that could derail him or make him negative. He's like, good, Roger. Like, factor, where do we go from here? What next? He does not let stand him and his goal. There's a kid's book. I don't know why I'm going on weird tangents today, but hope you enjoy it. If you do, hit the thumbs up button. There's this kid's book, and they're talking about going on a bear hunt. And when they run, they're like, oh, can't get over it, can't get under it, go around it, have to go through it. And they're constantly trying ways to face the challenges or the obstacles that come in their way. I mean, there's a fence and they go over it, and then there's something else they have to go under and around and through. And I mean, that needs to be our mentality when we're facing obstacles or challenges in our way. And if at the end you find a bear like they did in the kids' book, you better have a gun with you. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to today's video on faith, family, fitness, and finance. Unfortunately, we had some issues with the audio on the second half of today's video. So if you hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe, we'll see you next time. All right? God bless. Love you all.